Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Knitted Art History, where I'm sitting telling you some art history stories while knitting. And welcome to another video. And as I promised in the previous video that we were talking about Alphonse Mucha, that we will continue with the theme of jewelries. And today I will tell you about one of the most famous jewelers in art history, René Lalique. It is impossible to talk about history of jewelries without mentioning Lalique, because he was the man. He was the man, the myth, the legend, as it said. So today we're going to be talking about him. I'm gonna show you another bunch of very beautiful things and will present you this amazing master. So grab your food, grab your drinks. I'm still here on this piece because I haven't knit a single thing for the past week. So I'll be continuing on working on this, and you, well, enjoy. René Lalique is a French jeweler, and he was born in 1860 in a family of wine merchant and a dressmaker in Champagne. So a very famous region of France where the vineyards and winemaking is situated. He lived there not for a very long period of time, because in 1862 his family moved to the suburbs of Paris, and from now on he was living there. And it is believed that, they were actually pretty well off. So the father's business was pretty successful, because Lalique, starting from a young age, was visiting the prestigious Lycée Turgot. And at the age of 12, he actually received his first prize for some drawing that he did. I will not, stop on his childhood, something like that. We will dive in straight into his professional life. So in 1876, unfortunately, his father dies. Lalique is 16 years old now, and he, at this period of time, he enters a workshop of a famous Parisian, jeweler, Louis Ocoq. And here he started to master his skills in craftsmanship, and he started to gain more and more knowledge in different fields. In the evening, he visited classes in the School of Decorative Arts, or École des Arts Décoratifs in French. And in 1878, then after a few years, he went to England, and there he studied at the Sydenham College of Art. Sorry if I mispronounced it. So here he was what? Wait a second. I think I did something wrong. Yes, I did indeed. So here he was practicing his skills in design, in graphics also, and it is believed that apparently here he actually developed his unique style that we will see in his future works, in his jewelry creations. Then in 1880 he returned to Paris, so he's now 20 years old, and he completed his education in ceramics, in sculpture, also in art of animals, of glazes, of glass painting, etc., etc. He was studying techniques of old masters, like for example Vane Percy. He is another very, very popular and very important figure in history of decorative art specifically. And I think some of you actually might have seen his works, because he was very he was popular for his supernaturalistic art, for his supernaturalistic plates, where he would create these plates with different snakes, some frogs, and they would look so realistically that it is said that back then he's a master of 16th century, and it is said that people would actually believe that those were real creatures. And sometimes these plates were like rich people were buying them for fun, because they would place them as a decoration on a very spot on places, so you would see them straight when you will come to the room. And people were actually getting scared of that, because he was creating some place, like the most famous place, it was this snake, and people would really believe that it was a real snake, and they would jump and they would be scared, and so they were like making fun of all of that. And well, Bernard Palissy, he was working directly from like with the nature, so he would go into the wild, well, unfortunately kills this creature like little frogs, snakes, then he would go back to his workshop. He would create this forms where he would just quite literally, this form, these molds, where he would put these creatures how he needed them. He would then create basically, like silicone forms now, but it was now with silicone, obviously, but like the system was like that. So he would create this type of things, and then he would put it in the like on his place or whatever, and this is how this naturalistic effect was done. So Lalique was familiar with that. He studied a bit how he was working. At the same time, while he was studying, he was no. He was creating sketches for wallpapers, for some fabrics, and well, at this point, he didn't have like a lot of like independent customers. That was just his friends, like friends of the family and stuff. He was already making a little bit of jewelry, presented it to some of the jewelry houses, but we'll be speaking about this a little bit like in a bit. And what is also pretty important to mention about him, that starting from this very young age, Lalique was already not interested in a very massive jewelries, because he really didn't like all of this very big stones, this, it says that, like basically massive pieces of art. He actually thought that those things were pretty ugly, actually. So he, ugly, basic, I think I can use this word. So he was not into all of that. Then in 1885 he opened his first studio in Gaillon, in the former workshop of Jules Destapy. And it was in this period of time, Lalique became an independent figure now, independent master, who was slowly but surely gaining his audience, his clients, and his name, his fame. And in this period of time, he depicted from the classical techniques of his early works and embodied subjects that were corresponding more for the time, more for Art Nouveau, that was just started to appear in Europe. He started to create jewelry for women specifically, and all of this was he started to create these things from diamonds. But a part of diamonds, he would add like some not so precious stones, some glasses, some animals, ivory, tortoise shell, horn also. So the last these materials that I named, they were not so popular, and well, they were not considered to be something very important. Thus it was not so loved as all of the precious stones and all of this stuff. Plus as we we need to remember that it is still a period of time where people were showing off with, well, I mean, we still are doing this, right? Like, as I mentioned in the previous video about about Gothic jewelry, actually, that we still use this jewelry as a sign of our social status. So yes, so there was also this period of time, but back then maybe it was even more shown than now, because now you see we can, well, all of us can wear some more not so expensive parts, or create it themselves. Actually, I made this thing myself. So yeah, and he used this different materials because his skills, because he understood that these materials they best convey the texture of plants and three-dimensional perspective due to light, tonal overflow, and richness of different shades. And well, little by little, as I said, Lalique started to gain his name. The jewelry houses, I mean, like a very big, well-known jewelry houses, they still were not very into working with him, with the young master, without really any name, and was very, new, different, strange sketches of jewelries. As like, for example, there is this story. Lalique, he came to the CEO, in modern words, of the jewelry house Boucheron, and he came to him with a sketch of brooch that was in the form of flock of swallows, little birds. And well, the director said that, well, it is a very nice work, it is, well, a beautiful work, but this is not what the public needs. He said that the public will just laugh at him for this type of work because it's too eccentric, it's too maybe even simple, or well, I don't know. Obviously, the whole story, I was not there, but it is just said that he, well, basically laughed at Lalique and said that, well, there's no chances that there will be popular. But Lalique, that was, I think, his very strong character point, that he was not listen to anyone. If he had something in his head, he would do that. He would not listen to anyone who would say to him that, well, it is not popular, it is not fashionable, or whatever. So yeah, the same situation was here. He presented it, he heard him, but he did not listen to him. And I mean, to the CEO of Boucheron, and he created this piece and presented to the public. Public was feral. Public was like, wow, beautiful. And well, obviously, I think it surprised this CEO of Boucheron, and he actually then bought this jewelry piece for a very good price. Then, in August 1st, 1888. Well, this date is considered to be the birth date of the brand Lalique, because he registered his trademark on this day, and it was an emblem with initials and a sword. And from that moment on, he was using his trademark on his pieces that he was creating. Then, in 1889. At the Paris Salon du Champ de Mars, he presented some of his works. They were created in this whimsical manner, with different interesting materials, like I already named, like ivory, like tortoise shell, and etc. With glass, and well, critics were skeptical about these products, but the public, and especially the creative circle, so artists and everyone else, they were actually pretty, they were pretty blown away about the imagination of a new master on the market. So Lalique was not stopping. He was working. The production started to get bigger. He started to hire people, and finally in 1890, on Rue Thérèse, in the Opera area, Lalique purchased some building for a workshop and a shop for his company that now had 20 employees. And this year, just overall, it became pretty special to the master, because this year he met our beloved Sarah Bernard, that we were talking about in the previous video about Mucha. So she was a fan. She saw his works, and before starting to work with Fouquet and Mucha, she was a very big fan of René Lalique, and she was commissioning everything to him actually, and she was commissioning works for her theater, for her plays, and also for just her private usage. At some point, you see, in this period of time, Sarah Bernard actually, she became just quite literally his main client. Well, you cannot imagine about better advertisement for your jewelry than an eccentric actress that was everyone knew her, everyone loved her. She was very like a well-known, very popular actress. Everyone really loved her, and even in this period of time she was already like 50, and like almost 50 years old. No, she was 50 already. Well, she was something in her like early 50s, like uh, late 40s or early 50s. But she was still very popular, and we know, you know, how women are treated in this period of time of our lives. But still, she was the fame was over the roof for her, and everyone, as I said, very loved her, was very fond of her. And yeah, and actually for her he created this very famous piece. I think a lot of you actually saw the piece itself, but maybe you don't know the name or the master. So this dragonfly, a very massive brooch. We can see a woman that is like a female dragonfly, as if, you know, she's just sitting, staying in this anticipation for her victim. And she has this transparent, weightless wings, enrusted with precious stones, and we can see also this massive golden claws. And interesting thing about the wings, so the brooch, as I said, was pretty big. So it was 23 centimeters on 26 and a half. So what is this, something like that? So a very like massive work, especially for a brooch. And the wings were, because of that, the wings were mounted on miniature hinges, and they could move actually. So very interesting work. But returning to the theme of glass, also I will add it here. So he already started, you know, to work like with, you know, each and every year he started to work more and more with glass. And he started, you know, to put the glass pieces like in almost every type of his work, jewelry, I mean. And he was combining these diamonds with glass and all of this stuff. And he started to understand that, well, he was blown away by the possibilities of this material. And yeah, so he was experimenting, he was searching for his forms and for, you know, how you could work with this, and some new techniques in glass. And well, we'll be talking about it in a second. And he actually created like a few very new techniques, and he is considered to be the like real creator of these techniques. In 1891, he invented and patented a technique which called pâte de verre, which roughly we can translate, you know, as glass paste. So he would create, you know, some pretty unique waves. So he would be able, you know, to use unique ways of forming some glass pieces. He also continues obviously to work with to experiment with jewelry pieces, and he was creating, as I said previously, the jewelries mostly for women. And well, at this point he, you know, he started to use also all of these forms that he was using for the stage jewelry for Sarah Bernard. So these insects, reptiles, and all this stuff. He started to use those images actually in just like everyday jewelries, for not just for the stage. Along with that, he was also creating some beautiful pieces with flowers that were so natural that people would be like, oh, like, is this real? You know, he would use also some images of moss, of sprouse paws, for example, stunt with cones, some rhizomes, and well, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, but we'll also found out this word just when, you know, was preparing this material. And so yeah, so basically he was using a lot of naturalistic forms, a lot of images from nature, and was creating them very skillfully, so people would really believe that, you know, look at that, and they would look like they were real things. Another very important thing that was, well, basically actually created by him, and was a very unique thing for his time, is that he was using a lot of figures of naked women in his jewelry. So, you know, that was a very, there was a permissible thing to use in sculpture, in paintings, well, I don't know, in interior decoration, but not in jewelry, especially considering that he was creating this jewelry for women, you know, so it was like women was very like wearing naked women on themselves. So it was very, well, I don't think that the word, like the word scandalous is too strong for this situation, but it was just, you know, people was like, huh, you know, confused. I was searching for this word. However, as I said, Lalique was not paying attention to all of that. And well, I think at this point already he knew that the public will actually take everything. So he, as I said, you know, Lalique, even in this moment, he was like, well, I don't care what you're saying. I will do whatever I want because I like it. So he was putting this naked women on, well, on basically everything he was doing. You know, jewelry, vases, bottles, furniture, and even on car figures. And I'll be mentioning about this a little bit later. And because of this, well, as I said, you know, Lalique was his main idea, you know, his main, well, I don't think if I can say motto, but well, I will use this word, was that you know, you need always to try something new. You need always, you know, search for some new forms or something like that. So you don't need to listen to all of the critics that are saying you otherwise. But sometimes, you know, you would look at some of the works and you would be like, you could, you know, question a bit that did he really think that people will wear it, because, you know, they are so unique and they are so well, strange, maybe even that you really would think that he didn't care about whether someone would wear it on like whatever occasion. And he transformed his brindled imagination into previously unacceptable images, forcing the audience to enthusiastically accept everything that he was doing and, well, and wear it. Then with time, you know, the artist was using the images of, well, some like symbolism, some metaphors, some mythological plots, and also mythological characters. Many decorations still make you think about the overall ideas or the context of these pieces, and the beautiful lines of naked women forms will also forever, you know, remain in his art, because in one of the interviews in 1825 for an art critic, Maximilien Gauthier, he actually said that women and nature, so they are the source of my inspiration. In 1895 then, Lalique again exhibited his collection at the Salon du Champ de Mars, where for the first time, you know, he presented the, like, as I understood, like the full collection of jewelries made from horn. And this horn, he was buying this horn from Indian and South American buffaloes and cows, because apparently the horns of these animals, they had this more like varied and deeper shades to them. So, well, but I don't know for sure, obviously. Sometimes, you know, he would create some pieces that was like such a high quality pieces that you would actually think that those you cannot actually call them jewelry, you know, you would call them more like some painting. He presented his pieces, and again, critics were like, well, they are very beautiful, they are skillfully made and all of this stuff, but they are so eccentric and they are so well, so unique in more, you know, negative way, that you cannot actually wear these things for everyday life. This is a jewelry for stages, and you can see this, you know, in the jewelry of Sarah Bernard actually, and all this stuff. But again, the public, yes, the public was completely the public was thinking in a completely different direction. And they actually very liked it, and they were, you know, they did not care, and they started to, you know, buy all of this and wear it. At this point already, you know, he became the most boldest, the most, you know, audacious innovator in jewelry in this period, you know, at the end of 19th century, at the beginning of 20th century. He continued to work with the biggest jewelry houses in Paris, and now he was more appreciated than previously, obviously. Then in 1897, Lalique won first prize for a horn and ivory hair comb exhibited at the Paris Salon. And in the same year, after participating also in Brussels World Exhibition, like international exhibition, he actually was awarded with the Legion of Honor. During this period of time also, except of Sarah Bernard, so he gained another very rich fan. That was a rich man whose name was Gulbekan. It's like last name. And he became a regular buyer and admirer of Lalique. This, outstanding man, he had two passions. One for the oil, which was the source actually of his billions, and the other is for, well, beautiful things, beautiful masterpieces of art. And sometimes actually he liked Lalique so much that sometimes he would just buy everything that Lalique created, the new thing that created, even before Lalique would be able to present it into his shops, into his workshops or like whatever, and he would buy all of this. Then things started to get better and better and better with Lalique. I think actually he is one of the very rare examples of artists who he never actually had a downfall. With each and every year he became an even more and more and more and more popular, and he started to get even more and more and more of different type of costumers. So this is actually also on its own, it's a very unique, I think, moment in art, a pretty unique person in art. We are getting to the date of so we are at the beginning of 20th century, 1900s, and as a lot of you I think know, that in 1900s there were held a Paris International Exhibition, worldwide exhibition, which became the most popular. This like the exhibition that the Eiffel Tower was built for. And Lalique, he presented his works on this exhibition, and this event brought him the highest triumph and worldwide fame. There they were presented more than 40 nations, and it was built like a little city, like in the heart of the Paris, and that was, as I said, like the most successful exhibition. Well, I mean back then, because. Well, I think actually it's still maybe, well, I'm sorry, I didn't check this moment, but we know that the Paris worldwide exhibition was visited by 48 million people. So that was that was a huge number, especially for like back then. And the exhibition was held for 7 months, but still, I think it's very impressive. There, so René Lalique, he presented his stand of jewelries, and it was, it was very, you could pick his stand up like straight, because it was very unique for everything that was there. And this is like, mind you, there was a lot of people who are already creating a very beautiful jewelries in this period of time, but still unique. Lalique was a unique person, so he designed his stand himself. And at this period of time, in terms of jewelries, his style and his techniques, they were at a full bloom at this period of time. The display was surrounded by lattices, I'm sorry, made of forged female butterflies, which were connected by the tips of the wings, and they formed like some kind of fence. And here in this exposition, he presented jewelries again with horns, with diamonds, with glass, animals. He also presented some miniature glass windows framed in gold. Basically different pieces of jewelry, pieces of decorative arts. After this exhibition, Lalique was recognized, as the leading jeweler, not just in Paris, but basically in the world, especially the leading jeweler of Art Nouveau period. Additionally to the jewelry that he was making, he also presented some things from gold, from silver, and some glass, like for example like a Rena beetle cup. And and this thing that I named, It was in 2015, I think. It was, yeah, in 2015. It was offered for sale by one of the auction houses, like French auction houses, Fauvre, and the estimate of this cup was put it at 60,000 euros. I don't know for how much it was sold and whether it was sold, but I think it was sold, but I don't know for how much money it at the end of the day they gained. But press was writing even more about him now. He was admired even more. He was actually, influencing a lot of things. He was influencing the fashion, and not just in jewelry, not like in just overall decorative arts, actually in clothes also. So in this, like by 1900s, women clothes were, were pretty modest, and you could not show it like this. Lalique, jewelry was created to emphasize the beauty of women, of this part of us. So the open shoulders, the bare neck, I don't know, the décolleté and all of this stuff. And little by little, you see, well, women was fascinated about his works, about his jewelry. They wanted to wear them, but the fashion was not allowing them to do that. But they started to demand for some fashion designers, or just overall, the dressmakers, to create new dresses, new facades of dresses, so they will be more open, so women, could wear and they could show their jewelry. And this is what happened. So he influenced the fashion industry also. So as I said, this exhibition created a huge international demand for René Lalique, which obviously contributed to his prosperity. And Lalique's position as the greatest jeweler of modern time was indisputable. And all of this were giving him even more and more freedom to create some new stuff, to work in new techniques, not be worried about his financial status, his name, and whatever. Because of that, because he started to have even more and more of customers, as he needed, to expand his business. He needed to expand his workshop, and in 1802 he bought a building on the Cours la Reine, and he continued there his experiments with glasses, and he took there 4 of his employees, and they were working together, and they were helping him. And in this workshop, in this place, he would be with his colleagues, with his employees. He would be experimenting with glass for another decade, like almost a decade. In 1805, he's experimenting there with his glass, but a part of the experiment he need to work. And in 1805, Lalique opened a retail store at Place Vendôme, next to the perfumery of François Coty, and that was also a very important, important meeting. So in the same year, he met Coty, and Coty by this time he was already a very popular perfume master, and the most popular thing was his signature perfume, Rose Jacqueminot. Sorry, I don't know why it's like very hard for me to pronounce this name. And there is this legend also. I really did not dive in to like this theme, this story. Very bad researcher, but there is this, I think we can call it more like on a rumor side, or I don't know, but there is this story how Coty became so popular. So he got to some of the perfume shops where he presented one like this perfume, and he wanted to sell this perfume, but the owner of the shop said to him that no, he's not interested in that. And Coty, he accidentally, or maybe not so accidentally, he broke his this perfume bottle, and the customers they sensed this smell, this perfume, and they were blown away. Also, they were very fond of this smell, and they started to ask the shop owner, the perfume owner, that what is that? We need to, like, I need this perfume, I want this perfume, sell it to me. And this is how the owner, this shop owner, he bought this perfume, and this is how, you know, the demand on Coty perfume started to increase. For the first time, so first of all, when they met and all this stuff, they started their business. Coty said to Lalique, Coty ordered to Lalique to create a new bottles for his perfume. But because to this period of time, all of this, you know, looked more like this pharmacy bottles than perfume bottles. And well, Lalique created a very beautiful bottle for one of his smells. And well, it blew up, and they understood that you know, not just the smell of the perfume is important, but the bottle is also very important. How this was in this video, like, capitalism really popped off today, ladies, right? So that was the same thing. And well, this is how a pretty long partnership started between Coty and Lalique. He will say, like, you know, dressed all of Coty's most famous perfumes, and later on he also worked like Coty commissioned to Lalique to design his new shop in New York, but I will mention it a bit later, and I'll show you a bit later. Following Coty, another perfume houses, they also, well, they saw that it is very important what type of bottle your perfumes are being sold, and they will also start to get customized bottles from Lalique. A lot of very famous perfume companies was ordering for him, like for example Roger and Gallet, like Guerlain, Lelon, and well, etc, etc. Then in 1809, Lalique received a patent for a new method of forming glass bottles. The new technique turned out to be the most useful for perfume containers. And at the same time, Lalique started his new smaller company that was working just with glass, and it was situated in a small town, Combe-la-Ville. He firstly, you know, he rented this place where he put his company. After a year, things were going on so good for him that he actually bought this building, and he even made his production completely mechanized. So René created perfumes, bottles and powder bottles for sale in his store, as well as iconic bottles for some individual fragrances for, well, already named perfume companies. And actually, like, fun fact, the perfumes, the Nina Ricci perfumes, I think a lot of you know this, they actually still use his glass bottles. And except of that, he was also creating, well, everything, you know, everything that could be made from glass, he was creating. That's for this decorative glass things. By this time, so in 1912, then he, you know, he had like some of the exhibitions in his shops, and by this time he understood that, well, glass became actually his most famous material. And he understood that glass was like the only material that allowed him to create beautiful pieces, and that allowed him to create actually things that was in his mind, and this, like, his fantasies, bring his fantasies in life. This enthusiasm of working with glass was so big that between the period of 1809 till the period of 1812, he actually completely stopped creating jewelry, and he began to work, he began his career of glassmaker. From 1909 till also 1912, Lalique created several unique vases in pretty unique technique. So he created a technique that called the disappearing wax, or cire perdue in French, and all of these things that were created in this technique, they existed just in one copy. So, well, you can imagine a very unique pieces and very expensive pieces. And he created just 700 items like this. So this technique, the disappearing wax technique, was used by Lalique to create a complex three-dimensional forms, such as his famous 8 parrots and roses vases, and also in the catalog of his works are more than 300 serial vases created using mold and casting. And that was a very, a very lucky period, not lucky, a very good period of time for him to convert into something new, because well, as I said, it's 1912, so 1910s, and as I think a lot of you know, that was the period of time when Art Nouveau started to decline in popularity and started to, well, fall out of fashion. But for Lalique, it wasn't, well, he didn't care about this, because a lot of masters, you see, they didn't adjust it to the new styles, or they didn't want it to adjust. But Lalique, as I said, he didn't care, because simply not just because he was trying to be fashionable, but because he had his own style. He didn't care about anyone. He had his own Lalique style, and that was his, well, the most important thing for him. So yeah, so he was, but it just happened like this, that he started to get into glass in this period of time, so he did not lose his popularity and didn't lose his clients and all this. Even, like I would say, more, he even gained more of the clients. In 1913, he hired a sculptor, Maurice Bergeline, to manage the production of glass in this technique of in this liquid wax technique. In 1914, with help of Bergeline, he applied to patent, and in 1915 he received this patent for this technique. But unfortunately, this period of time he was obligated to close his factories, because the First World War was already emerging, and he reopened then in 1918. No, 1918. Oh my god. What was that? Okay. Then in Alsace in 1990, the construction of the glass factory of Vangen-sur-Moder started. So this production, this factory, well, basically also was mechanized, and he presented actually this the opening and the plans of this factory to the press, and he said that his main goal was, to start to create, some pieces without losing its artistry, and for, well, reasonable prices, so everyone could have beautiful pieces in their houses. So you see this idea that was, well, this is the ideas of Art Nouveau. So they were creating things. That was the main idea of the, like, one of the main ideas of the movement, that they wanted to create some pieces that would be reasonable by prices, but very beautiful. So all of this beauty will be not preserved just for rich people, something like that. It's usually, things like that, they're not working in this world, and at some point they became even, well, not more expensive. The thing started, you see what started to happen with some of the companies, was the biggest part of the companies in this Art Nouveau period, that they were doing amazingly beautiful things with very actually hard techniques that needed a lot of efforts and a lot of technical skills. And where they were doing this, they were selling this then for a, well, very underpriced for this type of pieces, and obviously they were not gaining any revenue from this. They were not gaining enough of money to continue, and you see, and well, and a lot of companies, thus, they were just closing, they were just becoming bankrupt. And well, Lalique had the same ideas, and well, at this point I think he succeeded, because now everything was mechanized and all this stuff, but still, just again, like, little fun fact, like, in history. He, like, reminder, he still had his little factory, little workshop in Comblaville, and by 1891 he decided to move, well, basically everything to this big factory in Vangen-sur-Moder. Biggest part of things were they're created mechanically, but all of the unique carvings, for example, polishing, like enamels, glazes, patina, and all of this stuff, he was creating it by hand, and that was a very unique things. In 1925, He was a participant of the International Exhibition of Modern Decorative and Industrial Arts. And again, he started to become even more popular, so he presented another mind-blowing things. And he also created, in addition to building his own pavilion, he actually created a 40-foot tall illuminated glass fountain, Les Sources de France. It was decorated with 13 large glass statues in the form of stylized female from Greek mythology. And now he showed, that he was not just a very good, he showed that he was not just a very skillful jeweler, he was actually a very skillful glass maker. And here I want to point out about, I think it is his, the most famous piece of art. It's the vases with bacchantes. He created this vase in 1927, and starting from 1927, this vase was produced continuously. While creating the bacchantes vase, he certainly had in mind the famous ancient Roman vases. Relief images, like for example, Townley vase, the Borghese vase, also the Portland vase. But here again, he just borrows the type of relief vases from antiquity, but not the images, not the subject. So his naked female figures are sculptured by him, on his own vein, on his own style. In addition, his dancers do not have any attributes to Dionysian cult. No sawdust, no bunches of grapes, no animal skins, and etc. We guess that those are bacchantes just only by the name of this vase. During more than 90 years of production of this vase, it was created from whatever materials you can think of. So, for example, since 1927, this that was created in this transparent, smoky, and amber glass. Since 1947, from crystal and satin glass. In 2004, it was made from a small batch of black. 2007, in 2007, there was a 18th anniversary of this vase, and they created the vases where each of these bacchantes was had her own color. In 2017, Lalique as a company celebrated 19th anniversary of this vase with 3 inventions. First, it released a new variant with a gilded inner surface. Secondly, they actually created their own perfume, their own fragrance, bacchantes perfumes, and the bottle of which were decorated with the same relief. And finally, they ordered a new vases, a new version of these vases, but they called it Sirens, for an American artist, Terry Rogers. He created his own vision, so similar, but now Lily created this wild women, and here he made a thought. He created that those were this modern New York models, something like that. He gave to the subject more, contemporary context. Starting from 1925, Lalique became interested in another design direction. So he began to make mascots, car mascots. So these little figures that they have on the hood of the car, what have Mercedes have this thing, more expensive cars, what is that, Rolls Royce, right, something like this. So this called the mascots. And so he started to create these things also. And one of the first mascots that he created, it was Cinq Chevaux, Cinq Chevaux. Yes, always had a problem with that, with the words, which was 5 horses, and that was this mascot was developed for Citroën. The next 6 years, another 30 mascots was created and released, including one personal thing that was created specifically for Prince of Wales. And Lalique created these figures himself. And except of that, he actually designed well, how to call it? So these figures, they could be, light up. So he was designing all of this thing, and you can imagine there was such a unique thing. I mean, this is still such a unique thing. That was such a clever thing, and this very rich like thing also. So he was creating not just the figure, he was also creating the lighting, and a part of that, not just not just the light. You could actually change the light in at what you want, like white, blue, red, like whatever. So he created all of also this thing. And so he created this type of mascots for Bugatti, for Bentley, for Isotta Francini, for Hispano Suiza. Well, I'm sorry, the last two, to be honest, I am not familiar with them. But the first two, I think everyone knows them. You can imagine that those type of things are still very, very unique, still very expensive, still, the heart of the collections of collectors. For example, in March of 2012, Sotheby's sold the collection of these mascots for the $805,000, yes, $5,000. Which is, on my point of view, well, I mean, I have here really really strange things, because at one point, even as an art historian, for me it's such a very strange thing to spend your money on. But this is I'm telling as a person, but as an art historian, I think that 805,000 for the collection. So there was, as I understood, there was not just like one piece, there was like actually a few pieces of these unique things. I think is actually not much. It's not a lot. It's actually even cheap for this type of thing. So, well, maybe you see, still, because I don't have a lot of experience in this field, maybe I don't understand something. But well, but for my point of view, it's even kind of cheap. I'm saying as though I would ever have so much money in my life. Well, but if in his use, Lalique gravitated more into this miniature things, more delicate things. In his later years, he actually began to take up large forms. So he designed fountains now, he decorated restaurants, he made light panels, he would make some crystal lamps for hotels, for boats, and cruises, or how do you call that, like whatever. It's now in this like first half of 20th century, 80s, 40s, the romanticism, of fairy tales, of his naturalistic images were replaced by practical things. Lalique was interested in interior and architectural design since 1902, when he decorated his showroom on the Cours la Reine with his glass door. Since then, Lalique created like a lot of these glass doors, and even in 2011, a set of doors was put up on auction, and it reached like a crazy sum. So as far as I remember, it was written that that was like the most expensive thing that was sold done by Lalique, and these doors were sold for €1,750,000, although euros, I think it was euros. So, after 1925, so after this exhibition of decorative arts, he created even more fountains for exhibitions, for private usage, for municipal commissions. And the most famous of these fountains was actually created for Champs-Élysées in Paris. But then it was dismantled because, well, it was too expensive to take care of this. And the most expensive fountain that was bought, that was created by René Lalique, was sold in November 1991, and was bought by David Weinstein for $1,100,000. Martin also, from this period, he designed a lot of architectural components like for example one of them for the Oviatt building in Los Angeles. In 1929 he made a glass design for a famous Peace Hotel in Shanghai. In 1932 he created a large panel for the men's department store Wanamaker in Philadelphia. Since the early 1930s, René Lalique has been working on the project for even few of the churches, and the biggest commission was from the private person, Lady Trent, for Saint Matthew Church in Millburg, New Jersey. So he created altar crosses, some altar images, the windows, the door panels, and well, etc., etc. And all of this was created in the style of Art Deco. Then in Tokyo, also one of the members of the imperial family, Prince Asaka, after his stay in Europe, he saw the works of Lalique. He was very impressed, and he commissioned for him to create a new place again in this Art Deco style, and now it is a national museum. And so the prince ordered, some chandeliers, doors, windows, some interior decorations, and well, etc., etc. Just that's a little portion of what was created for this place. But with the onset of the depression that started in 1930s, demands in the international market for luxury goods started to decline, and the factory in Comlaville worked until 1937. Then, because of the world crisis, René Lalique he closed this. Well, you see, I lied for you a little bit earlier. So he placed like half of his production. He took half of his production from Comlaville, but it was still open, so it was closed then in 1937. During the Second World War also, so the production in Alsace was stopped, obviously, because it was under the occupation, and Lalique was very worried about this. He was worried about his place. He was worried mostly not about his place, even about his forms, about all of the work that he had there. But fortunately for him, like few days prior to his death, he actually he had the news that this part of France was finally freed, liberated by the allies of France, and all of his molds had survived. Everything had survived. And then on May 1st, 1945, René Lalique died. Just like few days prior the news about the capitulation of Germany. So such a pity, I think. But so he died in his Paris home. And Master now is buried, as a lot of famous, well-known people, and the cemetery in Paris, Père Lachaise. And he actually, you can see there a glass cross that he designed himself. But the brand Lalique, it is still on market. It is still there, and it was still managed. I will mention about his family at the last point. In 2008, the company was, I think it's safe to say, saved by the Swiss businessman Silvio Dance. So he bought the firm. He bought this company. He invested millions of dollars into that, and the life hit the sky in this company again. So they started again to produce the things that were like iconic Lalique things that we know, but that at that point was just known in the museums. Today, Lalique company, they regularly invite modern artists, and they are giving them a completely free space and completely they give them the complete freedom of their actions. So they are working. So the one I already named, the Terry the Terry Rogers one. He created this another version of this vases. Another artist, already dead artist, architecture, Zaha Hadid. She was also one of the. He was invited to create some pieces for the company. Another thing was another artist was Daniel Hirst. Also, he was invited to create some things. Yeah, so they're continuing, they're developing, they're continuing the legacy of Lalique. But now I want to stop at I want to mention a bit his personal life. He was a very, he was a man. What can I say? What can I add here? So in 1887, he married Marie-Louise Lambert. That was his first wife. And then in 1888, the couple had a daughter, Georgette, but unfortunately the girl died in 1910. And so in 1988 is also the years we remember of the official birth date of the brand Lalique, and the same year his daughter was born. But this marriage didn't work out, so they split up in 1893. They started the divorce process, and in some sources it said that by 1893 they were already divorced, but some sources say that they were divorced just by 1898. But while still in his first marriage, but at this point I think they're already separated, he met Augustine Alice. She was a daughter of sculptor Auguste Ledreau and also a friend of sculptor Rodin. And this woman, she became Lalique's muse and lover also. It is known that she actually helped him with sketches. From their relationships, they had two kids, Suzanne, that was born in 1892, and Mark, that was born in 1800s. Legally their marriage was registered only in 1802 and lasted for, well, not very long period of time, because Alice, she died in 1909. He was not very committed to Alice, because in 1905 he stayed in London, and in London he had a romance with a French woman that he met there, and Renee even made a brooch for her. On this brooch you could see the two people kissing, and on the he made on the other side he made a memorable inscription, I dream of kisses that last forever. And in 1907, from this romance, a boy, René Le Menil, was born. Then in 1960, this Mr. Menil, he actually gave his mother's brooch to the Museum of Decorative Arts in Paris. Mid-20s then, René Lalique met another woman he fell in love with her, and from this relationship they also had two children. The first one was born in 1925, Jean Raymond, and just mind you, René Lalique was 65 at this time. And then in 1927, the daughter Jeanne Georgette. In total, Lalique had 6 children. Nature didn't have time to rest on his children, so they were also very talented and very creative. Especially, we are talking especially here about their children with Augustine Ledreau. What is this? His second woman. So the daughter, the son, and even the granddaughter, they turned out to be very talented people, and they they were the one that were maintaining the prestige of the name, the prestige of the firm, the prestige of the family. His daughter Suzanne, she was helping his father, and René was actually, he was constantly resorted by his daughter's advices. From 1910, she started to create sketches for powder boxes and packing boxes for her fathers, and then vases and other decorative objects. Then Suzanne married, and she started to get into into porcelain, and then and she was also talented in textile, in painting also, so well, very versatile person. Then another son, Mark, he graduated from a school of decorative arts in Paris, then collaborated with his father. After René's death, he took on him all of the family business. He modernized the factory in Vincennes, eventually giving up glass production in favor for crystal, applying some of his father's technologies to it. Then continuing the theme with glass of her father and of her grandfather, Marie Claude herself, she was an excellent glassmaker because she knew all of this process starting from a very young age, starting from her childhood, and she revived the tradition of jewelry design and developed a signature fragrance of Lalique de Lalique in 1992. And but well, as I mentioned, in 2008, the brand was bought by the Swiss businessman Silvio Dance, and then also in 2011, the museum was actually opened in this factory in Vincennes-sur-Moder. So yeah, so this is everything that I got for today. So more, more this like historical side, maybe not so on his art directly, but well, I think it's very hard actually to describe jewelry or something like that. It is more, it is more about indeed history, techniques, and all this stuff. But well, this is the brief, which I think it will be not a brief video, but basically the brief story about Lalique, about his life, about his experience, about what he was done and why he's so popular. You saw the works, you saw the amazing thing that he has done, and and I think you would agree with me that he really deserves the name that he got and that he still has. So yeah, as I'm always saying, the most important thing for me is that you find out something new for yourself, found out something interesting, you learned something new for yourself, or you became interested at the point that you would go and research something by yourself. I will leave you actually some books, like I think it will be like 3 or 4 books about René Lalique and his art and stuff. So yes, about his jewelry, about his glass specifically, so check the description below also. And yeah, and hope to wish you a good day, good morning, good evening. Don't go to sleep if it's the middle of the night. And yeah, and I wish to see you on the next video. I think we will stop on jewelry again because I cannot get out of this. I love jewelry so much and there is so much thing actually to tell. So maybe we need to talk about Fouquet actually, that we were talking, not just about Alphonse Mucha sketches, but Fouquet himself. But well, we'll see. Maybe we'll be talking about artists, maybe something, stay tuned for the next videos. Wish you all the best. Have a good day and see you in the next videos. Bye-bye.